Council to order with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to welcome everyone here this evening. We do have an agenda before us. Are there any changes to that agenda? If not, we'll operate under that agenda. The first item then would be to consider the approval of the minutes of the last meeting that was held on October 24th. The council does have the minutes. Are there any corrections to note? If not, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Amanda, seconded by C to approve the minutes as they have been presented. We'll move to a vote. We'll close the voting. And the motion does pass. We'll move then to the next item, which is the first of three public hearings. The first public hearing is agenda item number 2. This is a public hearing on the landscaping definitions on grass and weeds on private property. We will have a public hearing. Following the public hearing, we'll consider the adoption of the ordinance. I'll call on Ilya Gutman to conduct this public hearing.
Thank you, Mayor Council. So this change adds the concept of pollinator garden. At some point recently, the Council adopted a resolution advancing that concept. So the ordinance now basically treats pollinator gardens, vegetable gardens, and flower gardens very similar. The definition is added to the definition section of the ordinance, and they are now permitted basically everywhere. This change went to the Illinois Legislative and Ordinance Committee, and it was adopted. Suggested recommendation was to adopt it. Then it went to the Planning Commission, and they expressed the concern about pollinator gardens in the front yard. So they suggested a change to limit it to 25% of the front yard. So that's what's in front of you right now. That's the recommendation from the Planning Commission.
Okay. As part of the public hearing, any comments first from the Legislative and Ordinance Committee?
When it came out of Illinois, I don't believe we restricted any of it
Yes.
because there are already properties in Marshall that have more than 25% of their front yards. So our thing was we're going to tell those people they got to take their flower gardens out. And that's why we left it where it is. And it's, you know, if it's not on the road right away, Illinois felt that it's appropriate because it's their yard.
Right.
And I can think of one not far from your house, Craig.
Right.
And it's in their whole front yard.
And they take care of it.
Yep. It's just like grass. Some people take care of it, some people don't.
And Amanda, any comments from the Planning Commission?
I think that was like the reason to limit it to was they were worried about it becoming out of control or seeding into their neighbors' yards, that sort of thing. Yeah, I mean, it passed 3-1. There was actually opposition by one, like to not have it at all in the front yard. So it was definitely a kind of a sore topic. But everybody understands the need and the want and the necessity. It was just concerns about overgrowth mostly.
As part of the public hearing, any member of the audience have comments? Or members of the council have additional input as part of the public hearing?
Mr. Mayor, may I just say that this is triggered by a legislative change where there's a new state law that allows for these types of gardens. And so the legislature just wants to make sure that they're not completely prohibited. Yeah.
Thank you, Pam. Any other input? If not, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Motion by Steve,
Second.
seconded by Craig to close the public hearing. Discussion? If not, we'll move to a vote. Close the voting. And the motion does pass. We'll now consider the ordinance, and the ordinance before the council is the ordinance that was recommended by the Planning Commission, not the Legislative Ordinance Committee. What are the wishes of the council?
I would like to revert back to what the L&O did, where it does not limit it in the front yard. We did limit it 5 feet from the property lines, which should help with control of the spread. I'm going to go back to something Dr. Meister always says, why do we put in ordinances if we're probably not going to enforce 25%, and who's going to go out and check the 25%? So I would make a motion that we eliminate the 25% and approve the ordinance as written without that line.
Motion by Jim, is there a second to that?
I'd second that.
Seconded by Steve. Discussion on the motion? Any clarification needed on the motion? If,
Well, this would just be enforced then by grievance reporting if the neighbors are upset or concerned about a pollinator garden, and how is that enforced necessarily? I mean, just like the 25%, I totally understand what you mean, but by grievance, I assume.
so be complaint driven.
Yeah.
Correct, okay.
Any other discussion on the motion? If not, we'll move to a vote. Close the voting. And the motion does pass. We'll move then to the second public hearing. This is a public hearing related to outside storage and making an adjustment to the current ordinance related to outside storage. Once again, I'll call on Ilya Gutman to present this.
Thank you. So this is a outside storage ordinance, but the change pertains only to one thing. It's about shipping containers in the outside. This ordinance has been changed many times, and at some point in the summer, we asked council to confirm their vision, and we were directed to look at that one more time. So we did, and the idea now is that one shipping container can be left without a fence. The interim use permit will still be required, but the fence, which was previously required by the ordinance, will not be required. It will just have to be painted similar to the building and not have any signage or whatever usually is in the containers. So that's the only change right now, and it went through the Planning Commission and through the LNO, and in this case, they agreed that, yeah, make this change.
Okay, thank you, Ilya. As part of the public hearing, any comments from either Legislative Ordinance Committee or from the Planning Commission?
From L&O, this actually loosens the ordinance we currently have, and hopefully this puts to rest our 3-year discussion on shipping containers.
Any other comments?
No, not a lot of concern from Planning Commission on this one.
Any member of the audience have input as part of this public hearing? Or the council have additional input? If not, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So move.
Motion
Second.
by Craig, seconded by Jim to close the public hearing. Discussion? If not, we'll move to a vote. We'll close the voting. And the motion does pass. We'll now consider the adoption of the ordinance.
I move adoption of the ordinance as presented.
Motion by Craig,
Second.
seconded by John. Discussion? If not, we'll move to a vote. We'll close the voting. And the motion passes. Then our final public hearing is the procedures related to the adoption of an ordinance. Once again, Ilya.
Thank you.
And then Pam, you probably will comment on this too. So Ilya.
So this change is about public hearing. Right now, public hearings for some things are conducted at the Planning Commission, and some public hearings, like this one, is conducted at the council meetings. And that's, to a degree, is confusing. It causes people to ask, and staff sometimes is confused when to publish notice, when to do what. So staff's proposal is to make public hearing universal at the Planning Commission all the time if the Planning Commission is involved in the process. So it will include the ordinance changes like this one and planning. And that's those 3 ordinances, that's what it is about. Of course, even if there is a public hearing at the Planning Commission, the council can always have another public hearing because the statutes require only 1 minimum, but there may be more than 1. So if the council wants to have another public hearing, it can still have the public hearing.
Thank you, Ilya. Pam?
Mr. Mayor, Council, so this, the statutes for any types of these types of zoning changes only require that public hearing is held either, and it gives the option either in front of the Planning Commission or the council. So, so that this is just streamlining for staff. It seems to make it easier for them. As Ilya had mentioned, if the council still wants to have a hearing, they certainly can. There's nothing wrong with doing that as well. You'll notice there was also the addition of making sure that the notice that's required under the statute is spelled out in the actual ordinance for notice to neighboring landowners. And the publication in the paper is also specified in there.
Thank you. Any input from the council or members of the audience as part of this public hearing? If not, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So move.
Second.
Craig, seconded by Jim to close the public hearing. Discussion? If not, we'll move to a vote. And we'll close the voting. And the motion does pass. We'll now consider the ordinance. What are the wishes of the council?
Move approval of the ordinance changes as recommended.
Second.
Motion by Craig, seconded by Amanda. Discussion? We'll move to a vote. And we'll close the voting. And the motion does pass. Thank you, Ilya.
Thank you.
Move now to the consent agenda. We'll bring the items on the consent agenda up on the screen at this time. And those items include consider the approval to allow alcoholic beverages at the Red Baron Arena for the Fairbank Ice Dogs on December 1st and 2nd. Consider the approval of temporary liquor license for the Friends of the Orchestra. Consider the approval of temporary liquor license for Marshall Area Chamber of Commerce. Consider the approval of the 2024-2025 Healthcare Savings Plan Memorandums of Understanding. Consider the approval of the renewal of tobacco licenses for 2024. Consider the approval of the annual renewal of the liquor licenses for 2024. Consider the approval of the taxi cab license renewal. The introduction of the ordinance to rezone property at 100 through 120 London Road, R1, one family resident district, to a I1 limited industrial district. The introduction of the ordinance amending the limited industrial district and calling for a public hearing. Consider the approval for outdoor public fireworks display for Prairie Home Hospice. Consider the approval to move the December 26th regular council meeting to December 19th, 2023. And then finally, consider the approval of the bills and the project payments. Is there any item on the consent agenda any member of the council wants removed for purposes of separate discussion?
Move to approve as presented. Second.
Motion by Steve, seconded by Craig. Discussion? If not, we'll move to a vote. And we'll close the voting. And the motion passes. We'll move then to agenda item number 17, which is to consider their pre-development agreement with Southwest West Central Service Cooperative. I'll call on Lauren Deitz, Economic Development Authority, to introduce this agenda item.
Thank you. So staff has been working with the Southwest West Central Service Cooperative for several years to help them identify a new location for their administrative offices. They're currently located in the mall. Their lease has expired. The building itself needs improvements. So we've kind of explored a few options, redevelopment options, new builds, and we have selected to potentially build a new office facility for them on city-owned land. So we're looking at a 5-acre lot on the corner of London and Channel Parkway. Tonight, we're bringing forward a pre-development agreement which would provide the land for the service cooperative for $1, as well as allow them to use conduit bond financing for the project. So tonight, I have Cliff Carmody and Gary Hay here to present on the project and get a little bit more detail.
Okay. Thank you, Lauren. And welcome Cliff and welcome Gary.
Thank you, Mayor Burns, and thank you for having us here tonight. We appreciate it. Do want to recognize Gary Hay, who's been the architect on a number of projects that we worked on, and I also want to recognize Matt Coleman. Matt's a board member for Marshall Public Schools. He also serves on the board of SWWC. So we thank you for your time. We also thank you for all the work and collaboration that staff have done with us. Both Sharon and Lauren have been very instrumental, and you provided leadership to this project. We're excited about it. In 2016, we started on this work, and we thought we were going to start there. We didn't. We have 6 other sites. So I'll say a little bit about Southwest West Central Service Cooperative. We're an educational service agency. It's the best way for me to describe it. We serve 53 public schools, about 70 public and private schools in an 18-county region in Southwest and West Central Minnesota. So our footprint goes from Ortonville to Lester Prairie, Glencoe area down to Jackson. We've been around since about 1965. As a cooperative, our agency administrative office has been in Marshall since 1965. We started at the university, moved to the mall, and now we're looking to construct a new facility for our agency administrative offices. Our other 6 sites are learning centers. We have a learning center in Pipestone, all based on some kind of collaboration. We work with Minnesota West in Pipestone. We're in Windham with the public school. We are also moving a learning center from Bellevue to the community of Marshall. That should be done hopefully by the fall of next year. We'll have that completed. We're moving from Wilmer to New London with a new construction site there. And then we have a new building that's about 2 or 3 years old in Montevideo, and then a site in Cosmos. So we serve students in those facilities that are behavioral students, that their disability doesn't allow them to be in their traditional school setting. But we do a lot of different things, not just in education. We also serve what we call cities, counties, and other governmental entities, primarily in contract purchasing and health insurance, are kind of the 2 programs that our CCOJ members participate in. We have over 50,000 students, which is down about 25,000 students from 1965, at least, if you think about the history of our region. And this year, we plan on having over 600 meetings in our current facility, and it'll be about the same when we build a new facility. One of the biggest challenges we've had in this planning was the pandemic. How big do you build? We have a lot of folks that like the flexibility of working from home or working in a hybrid situation. And so we continue to work on that. We actually were the first educational service agency in Minnesota. And so we're proud of that fact. And we have 459 employees across the 18 counties. This site will house about 52 of those 459 employees on our administrative site. And so we think that we're really proud of the work that we do. We think that we're a pretty strong player, if you will, resource, service agency in the 18 counties, and we have appreciated having Marshall as our agency administrative home, as we have, again, just to reiterate the work that Sharon and you all, I know this isn't the first time we've been in front of you, you all have shared with us. Gary's going to talk a little bit about the site itself. He'll show you the plans, at least the early description of the plans. We're still doing some work on that, and we'll stand for any questions if there are any at that point.
Okay, thank you, Cliff.
Hey, good evening. So the slide that's up on the screen really just gives us bigger context of the city of Marshall. And as Lauren had said, the site that we're looking at is 5 acres on the intersection of Channel Parkway and London Road. And I'm sure you all know where it is, but it's on the west side of town near the airport, just off of Minnesota 68. So we can go to the next slide. So we've tucked the site up along, well, the building along London Road. We've set it back about 25 feet from the building setback line so we can do some building expansion in the future if needed, be able to identify that in the site plan. On the south side of this site is the primary visitor entry. There'd be a monument sign located at that entry, and you can see the visitor parking on the south side and then staff parking on the west and north side Service entry would be to the north, so there's two accesses into the site off of London Road. On the floor plan, it's really about sort of common space, collaboration space. One of the other aspects of this building, so the building is designed to be a hybrid office environment. We are accommodating all 52 employees on the site at this point, but we also have some large training and conference space. So the gray area you see on the plan is really common space, and we would house anywhere from 75 to 100 plus outside visitors for training. The colored areas are the different departments that are being housed in the building, so you can see they wrap around nicely around the common spaces. This is a view of the building from the south, looking sort of northeast. The building right now is envisioned as a variety of materials from corrugated metal panels, simulated wood metal panels, brick, and one of the things that we really want to introduce, if you've ever been in their space at the mall, is daylight. And so daylight's a very important component of this project. But the idea is to use a variety of materials that also tie into all the learning centers throughout the region. So there's a connection in the overall architecture and massing of the buildings as well. This is a view from the parking lot. So if you're a visitor and you're walking up to the building, this is an early view of what you would see going right into the front entry. The signage area would be visible from Channel Parkway. And then you can see the building entry is right in front of you and very visible, and then daylight into the large training space. And then this would be an approach as you're turning into the parking lot off London Road. So like we said, monument sign really identifying the location, the entry of the building, and then significant windows along the east side of the building along London Road. Again, that daylight is incredibly important to the workspace. But the materials also kind of blend in with the other buildings. I mean, primarily, metal, pre-engineered buildings out in that area. But I think it'll fit very well with the existing context. So right now, we're really in kind of we're wrapping up the schematic design phase. We're working right now on trying to do the design development phase of the building. We're working on the draft PDA with your staff, hope to get that executed. And then in December, we'll finalize the design, test our cost estimates against our current cost plans. And then in the spring, we'll go out for construction, and we hope to occupy the building in July of 2025.
Very good.
So with that, we'd like to thank you for your time, and if you've got any questions for us.
Questions?
Yeah, so Southwest West Central Co-op, so you guys are organized kind of as a school district, right?
Yeah, that's a great question. I could spend a half hour talking about it. So we are public sector. I probably should have said that earlier. We don't have any taxing authority. We get our, so what we get our ability to do what we do from the legislature. The Minnesota Department of Education calls us a school district. Minnesota Management and Budget will not call us a political subdivision. So we kind of sit in this wonky space sometimes. And so financing has always been a challenge for us because of the way that we do things. That's why you'll see in all of our projects, two things we work really hard at. One is whenever we can, we try to keep the costs down because this will be the cost of this project will be paid for by our membership.
Right.
In particular, the school districts, because that's who we serve mostly through fee-for-service.
Right.
So that's one of the things. And then just getting the public financing, obviously, we save dollars again. And so we have, in our most recent project, the London project, we're working with the EDA, and London EDA and City. Montevideo is another example where we worked with the city and the EDA in Montevideo to help finance projects. And then we pay the cost back through a long-term lease. So.
Now, this, if I'm right, this won't generate tax revenue. The building is not it's not part of a general levy tax property, is it?
Correct. Just maybe going back, and I know Cliff kind of alluded to this as he's been talking about this project for quite some time. I thought it predated 2016, but you noted 2016. With always a desire to do a reinvestment in Marshall and reinvestment in their office space. Their current arrangement where they're leasing space, they haven't been able to achieve improvement to the office space. Maybe that would come in some fashion, but the time to kind of move forward is really now. I like the fact that they're serving, I think I heard you right, 50,000 students.
Right.
And Marshall serves as a regional center. And then post-COVID, which I think is also a really good investment in Marshall, is 52 employees committing to having them come to the city or be a part of the city on a daily basis. So I kind of see this as a public entity helping out another public entity, but you are correct, it would not be a tax base increasing because they aren't allowed to pay property tax because of their status as defined as a school district in the state. But everything else about them really contributes to economic development and certainly retaining of employees and keeping Marshall as a regional center is an attractive amount where the EDA board unanimously supported the pre-development agreement that's in the packet tonight.
And then I think just to follow up on that too, is looking at the triangle of land that's proposed is probably a really good fit for that location and that piece of property. So I think it's good for Southwest West Central, and I think that's probably a good use of that property.
And maybe we should, for the public, we give a little more description. It's on London Road, but the neighboring property across the street would be Marshall Truss. Mm-hmm. And then the neighboring property just to the north on the other side of the road would be the new Border States Electric building.
Right.
So.
Yep.
One other thing to remember on EDA, and if I caught this right, you said you have close to 600 meetings a year out of this building?
Yes.
So that talk about economic development,
people
that's
from out of
bringing
town.
a lot of people in town. So I think it's a very good fit. And Bob, you're correct, for the piece of property, it's not I don't want to say it's a bad piece of property by any means, but it's not an ideal piece of property for something that once.
Good. I mean, I think it's a good use of that property. It's kind of it's a weird layout, and looking at the site plan, it just, I think it's a good fit.
Any other questions and Lauren, did you have anything else if not, the action before the council would be to consider the pre-development agreement with Southwest West Central Service Co-op.
Approve.
Second.
Motion by Steve, seconded by Jim to approve the pre-development agreement. Discussion on that motion? If not, we'll move to a vote. We'll close the voting. The motion passes. Before we leave, certainly thank you, Matt, for being here. Thank you, Cliff. And Architect Gary Hay is certainly no stranger to the community. He has done a substantial amount of work for the private sector in the community also. So thank you all for your work. We'll move then to agenda number 18. Consider the request for a variance adjustment permit. The location is 304 East Marshall Street. I'll call on Ilya Gutman to present this agenda item.
Thank you, Mayor Council. So this is a request from the owner to build a new addition with the garage, which will be located just 3 feet from the property line rather than required by the ordinance 5 feet. That means that it requires a variance. Ordinance and statutes require that the variance meets the practical difficulty test. That's kind of a three-pronged test. One is that request should be reasonable. The other one is that the property should be unique. And the third one is that it should not, if granted, it should not change the character of the area. So staff looked at that and it thought that it's reasonable to ask for the additional garage. And area is not going to be changed because there are plenty of houses and garages there which are pretty close to the property lines. Staff at that time during review did not find any uniqueness in the property. So that went to the public hearing at the Planning Commission, and applicants made a presentation and presenters explained that uniqueness is that the house was built in 1937, well before the ordinance was enacted in Marshall. And it was at that time it was built centered in the property, which is kind of not taken into consideration any attached garages. The Planning Commission accepted that and that its uniqueness and voted to recommend approval of the variance. If council has any questions, the applicants are here in the audience too. So.
Thank you, Ilya. Did you have any comments you wanted to make at this time, Pam, or you want to wait?
I think that summarizes the process up until this point, so I'm available for questions from the council.
Okay, and Amanda, any comments from the Planning Commission?
No, it was very well presented, and I think everybody understood exactly the uniqueness and the need, and it's not asking for too much. It was very reasonable, so everyone was on board.
And the important point probably is that this property was constructed well before the applicable zoning ordinance were even adopted, so.
So I would have council just know that the trend for case law is that the interpretation of what a practical difficulty is really is tied to the characteristics of the property and not a condition that was created by the ordinance. So that is something that the council should consider, that cases do really rely upon in their review that the circumstances were characteristics of the property. And in this situation, you know, in most situations, we see something like a odd-shaped property, or something, you know, like even at the screen that you had before, where you had a pie shape. So I just want council to be aware of that, of generally how the cases are trending for the interpretation of what practical difficulty means.
Input from the council? Any questions? If not, you have the recommendation from the Planning Commission. What are the wishes of the council?
Move to approve. Second.
Motion by Steve, seconded by Craig. Discussion? If there's no discussion, we'll move to a vote. We'll close the voting. And the motion does pass. Thank you, Ilya. Move to agenda item number 19, the proposed aquatic center action next steps following the November 7, 2023 referendum approval. So I'll call on Sharon Hansen, City Administrator, to introduce this topic. And of course, one of those will be the schedule of architecture, or not, engineering and planning, which John Brown is here to discuss, but I'm going to have Sharon talk before you talk. So you're welcome to stay there, but go ahead.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. I know that obviously the canvassing board met prior to the council meeting tonight and certified the election results, which was approval of the referendum to extend the sales tax to construct an aquatic center. But as you are also aware, part of the reason to kind of put together this agenda item was to really facilitate discussion on next steps. I can assure the council and the public, immediately after finding out the results, the first phone call we made was to Stockwell in order to inform them to get moving on the project. So, and Likewise, staff have been taking some other necessary steps. We did put in the memo some different topics. Specifically in the packet, there's two items that you need to take action on. One is to validate the prior purchase agreement approval. I don't have the exact data when that was done, but it was an agreement that was approved contingent upon successful referendum. But we want to validate that by resolution, so you see that in your packet. And then also in the council packet is introduction of the ordinance. We have an existing ordinance for a sales tax as a result of the 2012 referendum at that time. We need to amend that. Just like the legislation, we didn't create new legislation. We amended the existing sales tax authorization to include the aquatic center. And that's what we would be introducing via ordinance, is to amend ordinance to include the extension of the sales tax for the aquatic center. Just want to state a couple other things we'll point out. City attorney has been aware of, following the resolution approval, hopefully tonight on the land purchase, about working with local attorneys and local title companies on title work, platting and deed documents. We also will be sitting down with city clerk, talking about Secretary of State requirements too, and to ensure that we fulfill all the necessary statutory requirements. And then finally, we did want to bring Stockwell in person tonight. Thankfully, John made some changes to his schedule and wanted to be here in person and talk about an updated schedule. And I think you have a handout. If not, I know Stephen.
I don't have the handout. I apologize.
Stephen
I
can
wondered.
show it on the screen as well. And I'll just, if it's okay, Mayor, I
Yeah, there it is.
can have him talk or whatever you would like to add.
Well,
Yeah.
if it meets with the wishes of the council, let's take care of the action items first. And then we'll
That'd
go
be good.
through the schedule of activities that's going to happen after that. So as Sharon said, the purchase agreement that was agreed to in, I believe, August of this year was approved by the council contingent on the successful vote, which of course occurred last week. That was not done by resolution. It's the city attorney's opinion that that should be done by resolution. So that's the action before us tonight, is to confirm the land purchase agreement by resolution. Pam, any questions?
Yeah, that's correct, Mr. Mayor. So the purchase agreement you previously had in front of you in July, was it? Yeah. And so the statute just requires that that approval has to be done by resolution. So that's just confirming that action.
So is there a motion for that resolution?
I'll make that motion.
A second.
By Jim, seconded by C. Discussion? If not, we'll move to a vote. We'll close the voting. And the motion does pass. And then the second item, Pam, you can speak to this if you want, it's the introduction of the resolution for extending the sales tax.
The actual introduction of the ordinance, Mr. Mayor.
Introduction of the ordinance, yes.
So this sales tax are very, the process is very dictated by statute. And so the next thing that has, now that the voters have approved, that the council's action is to pass an ordinance. Since there's an existing sales tax that would be otherwise done, it's continuing that. So we're amending the original ordinance to be able to accommodate the extension of the sales tax. So that's, and that has to be done by ordinance process, so.
So is there a motion to introduce
I move to introduce the ordinance amending the city's existing ordinance number 667, second series, to provide for extension of the local option sales tax.
Motion by Craig, is there a second? Seconded by John. Discussion? If not, we'll move to a vote. And we'll close the voting. And the motion does pass. Sharon, anything additional? So now we'll turn to John Brown from Stockwell to tell us how soon we can get.
Yesterday, right? Thank you very much. John Brown with Stockwell Engineers. David was unable to make it tonight. He had another commitment. But we wanted to be here in person. We understand the concern about moving forward as soon as possible. We did provide an updated schedule from our team to you folks when we did execute the agreement back in August of what our anticipated start time was. We would certainly hoping we could get started early November or shortly thereafter the vote. And unfortunately, we would not be able to do that just because of other commitments we have. That doesn't mean we changed our schedule. All we've done is condensed our design schedule. So what we've provided for you is a schedule here that we would get started early January, and we say mid-January, but we fully anticipate that kickoff meeting being in either late December, depending on people's availability, but then also if that doesn't work out, it'll be early part of January for our kickoff meeting. All of our team members, the architect, mechanical, electrical, are all very aware of this schedule. We've solidified this schedule with them prior to even executing our agreement with you. And we've since reached out to them after the successful vote and have them planning to move forward with the schedule as we discussed. And so going forward, we anticipate that kickoff meeting early January and starting our design schedule or design process. We do have about 30% design completed. So it's our desire to move into the 60% submittal near the end of March. So around the 1st of April, you'll be seeing a set of 60% plan submittal, of which we'll be able to present to you folks and the city staff to make sure that everybody's on the same page. There will be several correspondence before that and meetings that we'll have with city staff before that and during that time period, just making sure that, we're still carrying forward the intent of the project. So, and then from there, obviously there'll be reviews from internal but then moving into final design. And the intent would be to bid this project in August. And the reason we selected August, ideally, middle of the summer is not a good time to be bidding projects, whether that's, if they're especially larger projects like this. We want to avoid that because we don't really have our contractors listening and looking at our plan sets at this time. They're focused more on finishing up the work they have now or during that time. And so we want to make sure we present this to the contractors at a good time so that we can get a very competitive and good bid. And so that's why we've scheduled this way. This is what we had talked about from a schedule standpoint last year. And then once we get those plans completed and out for bids, fully intend to be completed by the end of 2025 and with an opening in 2026. And that was the schedule we had talked about, if you recall, back in late July or August when we were here explaining that to you. If we were to delay the design process, that 4 months or so, we would miss out on that first, the ability to bid that in early 2024. And so that was something we talked about back then. And so I hope everybody recalls that. And so that is our intent. This is our schedule. We're here to, work with you closely. We're going to do everything we can to make this schedule happen. And I don't have any doubt that this schedule will happen. And, congratulations on a successful vote. That's impressive. So any questions for me?
Questions for John? Sharon?
And you maybe kind of got to this, but just to be clear, on that schedule, bidding it out in late August?
August, yeah. Bid opens in late August.
You think at that point it's more conducive to getting better bids from pool
Yes.
contractors
Yeah.
than June or July?
Yes, well, I apologize if I wasn't clear there. June and July is just not a good time to be bidding these projects. They're working hard on making sure they're staying on schedule with their current projects they might be working on, at that time. And so we want to make sure that they're thinking about these projects as their next project for the following year. And so we've had very good success with bidding it in August, September, these larger type projects, because people are looking at it like, oh, this is a great opportunity to maybe fill up their pail a little bit with some big work for the following year.
And just to comment on the council made a deliberate decision last summer to not do the design work and engineering and incur the costs until the public vote
Right.
actually authorized it. So,
Right.
So we are on schedule with what the council's intent was.
Yes, yes. And, congratulations. I think that was a good move on your part as far as delaying that, making sure you had a solid vote. Obviously you guys have to be diligent about spending your money, and taxpayer money.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I'd like to just kind of touch on that too, and I appreciate it. I know we had a very good meeting in August, and you guys are very candid about, how things would work. And while, we wanted to move and try to expedite this, we really, out of respect to the constituents, and I think they certainly didn't disappoint us. I'm proud of the vote that the community gave and the support they put behind. And now we can move forward with a good, solid project, and
Right.
look forward to you guys
Thank
giving
you.
us a really good product. So
So
thank you.
it'll be a good product. I want to, also, got to give Sharon a lot of credit. You guys do. She's been trying to get us to get going quicker on the project. So she has been on us.
We pay her for that, yeah.
She has been on us, so you got a good one there. So, but we'd rather tell you that, if we can't, get started rather than, tell you we're getting started and then smolder along. We wanted to be upfront with you from the beginning, and we're doing that.
I'd like to, just as one council member, I appreciate that. I'd rather
Yeah.
have the facts and bad news than
Yeah.
surprises. One thing we don't like is surprises, especially from our architects and engineers. So,
Consultants. Yeah.
Exactly. So good news and bad
Exactly.
news, prefer good, but no surprises.
Right, you're exactly right. So, thank you.
Any other questions for John? We look forward to
Yeah, well, we do too. Thank you guys very much.
you.
We appreciate it. And we look forward to it. Thank you.
Sharon, you may want to make some final comments on some of the next tasks ahead, including you will assign a staff representative as a owner's rep. There
Yeah.
may be the formation of a working committee in the future, so.
I received an email from the mayor the next morning at 6:34 a.m.
Typed it the night before, but just waited to hit send.
Oh, I don't know if he thought we were going to sit on our hands, and I don't know. But anyway, it actually was a good, hey, checking in, like, you got to keep thinking about this. And he also made a really good recommendation on having some engineering expertise, because it's a little different than just a building project. It's a lot of pipes, a lot of concrete, pumps, things like that. So having a good engineering background will be helpful. So suggestion by the mayor to have an engineer as our owner's rep from the city. And Jason has agreed to have the assistant engineer, Eric Hansen, serve as the owner's rep. I know he knows Stockwell as well, so there's some relationships already established there, and he's hit the ground running as well. In addition, we still have staff talking about opportunities for additional sponsorship opportunities. We knew when we were talking about the aquatic center that people wanted to support it in addition to the sales tax. Preston has a better pulse on that because he's out and about quite a bit, and I know that he's gotten a lot of interest from people saying, I want to help support it. So that'll be something we proceed with. We obviously know we're limited in sales tax to 18.3 can't change legislation at this point. We're going to move forward to that. Our project includes some ad alternates, so we'll have to kind of see how we get there. Some of them really need to be done at the beginning. You can't just add it on later. So we'll focus in on that. And also, I know I talked to the mayor, and I think this will be helpful. I don't know when, and maybe it'll coincide with some of the beginning of the design process, but we had a really successful city hall committee that was made up of council members, and I thought it was valuable because they were there right with staff when there was questions and when there was issues and we needed suggestions, and we got really good buy-in. And they were a good advocate for the project with the public, but also giving updates to the council. So I think we want to, staff would like to see that for this aquatic center project. Similar to City Hall, except for I think it'll be a little less intense in terms of, what's needed, what's not needed. I think we've got a really good path forward with some preliminary design input, work that's been done by Stockwell and staff. And, again, just a lot of pipes and concrete and pumps. So, but important, and if the council and the mayor agree to doing that, we want to work with council at a really good, intimate level so that they can support the project just as much as the public and the staff do. So.
Thank you, Sharon. John, did you have something more you wanted to say?
Sharon brought up a good point. The project, the last time we brought our 30% plans submittal, we were over the budget. And so in order to get that in the budget, we identified 6 different ad alternates that we needed to do as part of the bid package in order to make it within our budget. And so that's fully what we intend to do, and work closely as we move through these final design documents so that we can identify those items. And, if we've got ad alternates, we'll want to pull the trigger on those upon award, depending on how the bids do come in, so.
Yep.
Very good. Any final questions for Sharon or John? Or Preston? If not, thank you very much. We'll move then to the next agenda item, which is agenda item number 21, the South Whitney Street reconstruction project from East College Drive to Jean Avenue. The action item would be to consider the resolution receiving the feasibility report and calling for a hearing on the improvement. I'll call on Jason Anderson to present this item.
Thank you, Mayor. You've got the feasibility report included in your council packet. This project's a complete reconstruction of South Whitney Street from College Drive to Jean Avenue. Includes all utilities, water, sewer, and storm sewer, as well as street and sidewalks, driveways. Engineer's estimate for the project is just over $2.4 million, and the project would be proposed to be assessed per our current special assessment policy. So if there's any questions from the council, I can answer them. Also note that we had a public informational meeting last week with the neighborhood on Thursday night. Thank you to council members Alcorn and Luzinski for attending that as well.
Okay, any questions for Jason? Now, is there a motion to, is there a motion?
So move.
Motion by Craig, seconded by John. Discussion? If not, we'll move to a vote. And we'll close the voting. And the motion does pass. We'll move then to the next agenda item, and this would be the statement of the annual performance evaluation for Sharon Hansen, City Administrator. I'm shuffling papers here, that's why I seemed a little distracted there. So I'm passing out to the council, and there should be one for Deb for you as the media. Council did meet in closed session earlier this afternoon. earlier this evening, late afternoon, and I'll read into the record a summary of that meeting. And this is really the result of the annual performance evaluation for city administrator. So Sharon Hansen began employment as city administrator on November 16, 2017. Each year on or about the anniversary of her employment as administrator, the city council conducts a review of the administrator's performance. The evaluation instrument evaluated 10 critical performance competencies with 4 to 5 performance measures for each critical performance competencies for a total of 48 performance measures. Each performance measure was assigned a numeric score of 1 to 5, with 5 being the highest performance level. The City Council reviewed the results of the performance review with Administrator Hansen at a special meeting today, November 14, 2023. So the critical performance criteria compiled performance scores is summarized as follows. Job knowledge and performance skill was a 4.57. Relations with elected members of the City Council, 4.57. Policy execution, 4.54. Strategic vision, 4.54. Fiscal management, 4.49. Intergovernmental affairs, 4.74. Reporting and communication, 4.43. Citizen / community relations, 4.53. Staffing, 4.54, and supervision, 4.26. The overall performance evaluation for all the criteria from all of the city council members and the mayor is 4.52, indicating a high level of performance, highly effective leadership, and performance, often exceeding the challenging performance expectations established for this position. Sharon Hansen is classified as step I, and following out the performance evaluation, the council may consider a step increase to step J on the wage schedule. With that, the council did meet in closed session. They may have additional comments, but the 2 action items would be to accept the annual performance evaluation that I just summarized. And then the second action would be to make the salary adjustment as allowed by the city administrator's contract and our wage plan. Any comments from the council?
I move we accept the annual performance evaluation as presented for Sharon Hansen.
Second.
Motion by Craig, seconded by Steve. Discussion? If there's no discussion, we will move to a vote. And we will close the voting. The motion does pass. As I mentioned, following the positive performance evaluation, the council may consider moving Sharon to step J on the wage and classification study, wage schedule, excuse me.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Jim. Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second.
Seconded by C. Discussion?
The only discussion I have is, to a lot of folks, that looks like a big number, but for the city of Marshall, that Sharon is worth every penny of it for the work she does, and it probably saves taxpayers money in the long run. We're very fortunate to have a city administrator like her working for us, especially out in a rural community like this.
Well said. Any other discussion on the motion? If not, we'll move to a vote. Close the voting. And the motion does pass unanimously. Sharon, I'd be remiss if I didn't give you the opportunity to say something here.
Just want to thank the council. It's great to have unanimous support, so I really appreciate all the support and the comments and the evaluation, so appreciate it.
Very good. Okay, we'll move then to agenda item number 23, Commission Board Liaison Reports. Craig?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Airport Commission met last Tuesday. I was unable to attend.
Steve?
I have no report, sir.
Amanda?
I think we covered every planning commission topic for the last 2 planning commission meetings in this meeting tonight. So we're done with that. Public housing yesterday, pretty basic housekeeping type things. They are working on replacing one of their maintenance staff in the interview process right now. And then I think the biggest thing out of EDA is the announcement that was made about Solugen's Bioforge 2 project. And it's a 500,000 square foot facility that will employ 40 full-time people. And I really wanted to thank Lauren Deitz for all her work. It's a big deal.
Very good. Any questions for Amanda? If not, from my standpoint, the Southwest Regional Development Commission has their full commission meeting this Thursday. I'll be unable to attend because that all Thursday and Friday is also the Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities Fall Meeting, so I'll be attending that along with Sharon will also be attending. But C. Moleski, who is also a member of the full commission of SRDC, will be, I'll call it the featured presenter on the agenda, and she will be presenting her story as well. I'll let you describe it when you get to that point. And that presentation, I believe, was also given to staff at one point, and I think in the future, perhaps at a council strategic planning session, I think it may be useful for the council to have too. So, John?
Nothing.
C.
The DEI Commission, we still need to form our Juneteenth committee as the city is taking over that, so that one is still kind of in limbo. CVB, they approved the annual strategic plan. Library Board approved the budget for 2024.
You want to say anything about
Oh,
SRDC?
sorry, SRDC. I will be doing I did the presentation for the leadership team for the city of Marshall, so I would also be doing it for them as well, just about my journey as an immigrant to the United States and just a little bit about the Hmong people. That's it.
Craig? Or,
Jim, but that's
Jim.
all right. I have nothing.
Okay. We'll move then to council member individual items. Jim?
I have a couple things. I know that the paper ran some information on debt recently, and I think they did a fine job. I did not read the article, but I sat with EJ. I think they did. I don't get.
You did.
Never mind. Anyway, I just want to, kind of credit our city council. In 2014, the city of Marshall was $93 million in debt. 2022, we're $63 million in debt. So in 8 years, we lowered our debt load by $30 million. And out of that $63 million that we are in debt, $5.5 million is still MMUs. So that even lowers that less. And I think that that's a credit to the council, it's a credit to our city administrator, because I know one of your concerns, what you heard from citizens when you got hired, was we have too much debt. And I think we as a council have done well. The number that really sticks out to me, and EJ, if I'm wrong on these numbers, please correct me, because we met a week ago, but in 2014, Marshall contributed 60% of the total debt load of Lyon County. I'm correct in saying that, right, EJ, is how I read this article, or your graph here? In 2022, we were only 31% of the total Lyon County debt load. I think we as a council, and I like to toot our own horn once in a while, we've done a good job controlling debt. And we were told that by the citizens. I know, Stephen, you and I ran in 2016. We heard that very loudly, and I think we've done a great job of that. So that's to let the citizens know that we do take debt serious. I know with the pool vote, there'll be more put on top of there, but we are working to eliminate the debt load as a council. Then the other thing I read is there was an editorial in the paper, and I did read this, about County Road 33 and 23, that we should get a hold of our council members. That's not in city limits. So that's something that whoever, I can't remember who wrote the letter, that should be addressed, if I'm correct, with their county commissioners. Because that intersection is not in city limits.
And the state.
And the state. So as much as we'd like to help with that intersection, I agree something should be done. It's out of city council's control. That is the state and the county. So I just like to, when I read that stuff, I like to make sure people know who the correct folks are to contact. Other than that, enjoy the nice weather and
Be safe.
that's it.
Very good. C?
I just want everybody to, I just want to personally invite everybody. The Hmong New Year is this Saturday. And this year they are hosting it in Marshall here over at SMSU at the RFA facility, which stands for Recreational Athletic Building. So it is 9 to 4, and the mayor and I will be doing the welcome at 10 o'clock. So hope to see you there. And there's free food at 12, so it's all authentic Hmong food, so come and check it out.
Very good. John? Craig?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to add on, just to touch on when Councilmember Lozinski talked about debt. EJ, there's still a large part of the existing debt part that we have that's also through our enterprise funds, correct?
Correct.
So that's one thing to remember too, that while that number is huge or seems huge to a small person like me, a lot of that is part of our infrastructure. So think about where the city has come after the ice storm of 2011, windstorm/ice storm. MMU put all of our electrical underground. Huge expense. Every time we do these street projects and everybody thinks, oh, we just got to have all these nice streets. Well, no, we're actually doing that to start with because we need to redo the buried infrastructure. We don't have all the basement flooding like we had before because our storm sewers are upsized and right-sized. Our sanitary sewers have been upgraded so we don't have infiltration and inflow. And we're reducing our water main breaks and increasing our liability and water outage, power outage, all of that because we have a good, strong infrastructure. That's all under the street. So when you look at all those new streets, know that everything under there is new too, right-sized and new-sized. So a lot of that debt is through our enterprise funds, and that's quality of life in the community. So when you see the city of Marshall Council taking on this debt, that's also growth and improvement that adds to the quality of life and livability in Marshall. So we are investing in the community when we spend that money.
Very good. Steve?
How can I beat that? I have nothing.
And Amanda?
Very well said. I have nothing else.
I was actually going to comment on both of those topics that both Craig and Jim brought up. And just to follow up on the County Road 33, I think we all are concerned with the safety of that intersection. It's not only the Department of Transportation highway, the County Road 33 is also a township road that's there. It's one of the busiest intersections for truck traffic in and out of the community along the Highway 23 corridor. So I think it is good to bring that not only to the attention of the county board, county engineer, but also the Minnesota Department of Transportation. And I can carry that message to MnDOT, and Jason and I both sit on the area transportation board. We can carry that message again. The district engineer, John Hughesby, as well as the principal planner, are planning to meet with the Marshall Area Transportation Group about this intersection as well as the intersection at Amaret Road, which is the crossover between the high school and the university. And that meeting is going to happen in early January, I think like January 3rd or 4th. So there is attention that's needed at that intersection. I think the comments about debt level are well said. I don't need to echo what both of you said, but I think the important part of this very well-written article is that the vast majority of the debt that the city has is paid by dedicated revenue sources, either from utility payments, wastewater payments, stormwater utility payments, or assessments on streets for street reconstruction projects. With that, we'll move then to the next agenda item, which would be staff reports, starting with City Administrator Sharon Hansen.
Yeah, just to talk a little bit, follow up on debt. This week, the Department of Revenue will release preliminary levies for cities, counties, school districts, townships, I think, too. Maybe not townships, but I think what we'll see across the state is the need for additional revenues by city government, and it's challenging. It keeps a lot of our leadership team up at night because we can't do our jobs effectively and provide really good service to the community without revenue. And it sometimes means we've got to get it from different sources, including doing some bonding. So, yeah, it's a challenging situation, but it's something that all cities face, and I think we'll see that this week with some of the results of other communities and their levy increases, and preliminarily at least. And then I want to also add, I do read the newspaper, and I do subscribe. And one other big major piece to the Aquatic Center project was the newspaper reporting. And I thought it was very fair. I always kind of get a little bit nervous, obviously, when the reporter, Deb Gow, asks questions, but I do trust her work, and I think she did a great job. There was a great editorial by the newspaper as well on the final day where they could, I think, wanted to print opinion pieces on it. I think that was really critical. And, you know, a lot of times the newspaper took head on some of those questions that were put out there. And they were good questions. They weren't, you know, they needed to be asked and answered. And it was nice to have that separation from government, to have someone else asking questions, verifying from other sources, including calling the city of Crystal to ask about their aquatic center and how it wasn't like the city of Marshall. But I really appreciated the fair reporting. I had meant to send an email also to the editor, and I'll do that sometime this week to thank them. They like to stay separate from us, so they probably don't like getting credit or accolades from me on this, but it was really good, fair reporting, and I appreciated their work on this topic. So that's all I had, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. I will call on City Engineer, Director of Public Works, Jason Anderson.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be really brief. I'll just fill in for Councilmember Schaefer. The Airport Commission meeting on Tuesday last week was dominated by conversations around the maintenance building, the SRE building. TKDA, the consultant, was there, and the architect to discuss proposed changes to help get better bids this next go-around, and to start to explain how we're going to attack it to the Airport Commission and start to workshop it. So it was a good conversation and a good meeting, fully revolving around that building. That's all I've got.
Okay, thank you, Jason. And Pam Whitmore, City Attorney.
Nothing more for the good of the council.
We'll move then to the remaining items on the agenda this evening. They include the administrator brief for the council's review, the listing of building permits, as well as the listing of upcoming meetings. Is there anything else to come forward at this meeting this evening? If not, is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
A motion by Amanda, seconded by John to adjourn. Discussion? If not, we'll move to a vote. We'll close the voting. And the motion does pass. We are adjourned.
That was the fastest vote.